All right, so I hope that everyone has something to drink. You maybe have a fidget on hand. For me, I like to keep a bowl of stones on my table. So I like to just, play around and just feel the different textures of the stone. It helps with anxiety or stress or anything. So I hope you have yours too and you're following along. Uh, and I hope that you are able to relate. Maybe you discover something new, you learn something. I hope you enjoy the session. So we're here today to learn about body focused repetitive behaviors, or sometimes you've heard the word BFRBs. That's just what it means in short. So whether you're picking, biting, pulling, you may have heard a therapist, skin pick or trick stop, social media refer to BFRBs. And you're probably thinking, what on earth is a BFRB? And why do they keep talking about it? I have skin picking, or I have hair pulling, or I bite my nails, or I pick at my fingertips. Why are we always talking about BFRBs? Well, this is a webinar to explain that. So my name is Meryl. I am a counselor and the Chief Community Officer for Skimpick and Trick Stop. And my work focuses on educating and supporting individuals, families, professionals, anyone who's impacted or just interested in learning more about skin picking and hair pulling. So I really thank you for being here. For many people, learning about body focused repetitive behaviors, skin picking, hair pulling, can be both relieving and quite emotional. Some people realize for the very first time, sometimes in these sessions, that what they're experiencing actually has a name. So I just want to acknowledge everyone who is here and those who are watching it at a later stage. We really appreciate you being here. We acknowledge that this is the first step, or even for some, it's one of the steps that you've taken for yourself or a loved one in your journey to manage your picking or pulling. Okay. So what can you expect from this session? Quite a bit. So we'll go through it quickly. So we're going to be talking about what is a BFRB. All right. So what is a body focused repetitive behavior? Then we're going to have a special focus on skin picking and hair pulling. Then we're going to be talking about some myths and how that can impact an individual or society or family as a whole. We're going to be looking at the causes and triggers of BFRBs, what helps. So we're going to be looking at the different types of treatment that is not just available, but that is the gold standard. So that just means what is highly recommended and what is being proven by research to be effective in treating BFRBs. We will also look at, well, after now I've received treatment, what does progress look like? So what can I expect to see going forward? And then you cannot have a webinar without resources. So we've learned everything. We can relate to what has been shared. We've possibly identified certain traits or behaviors, but now what? So it's really important that we do share resources, whether they're paid for or free resources. So I will share that with you at the end of the session. And it's, definitely, if you are interested in the paid for program and you stay all the way to the end, I will be giving you a promo code just to help with that first month's payment. And it's definitely a nice discount just to help you along. And then at the end of the session, we'll be doing a Q&A. And that's where I'll be answering your questions. Okay, so I think my slide just did switch around. So what is a BFRB? So if I just want to acknowledge this for a moment. So one of the most common things people say when they first learn about a BFRB is, I thought maybe I was the only person who did this. And I just want to let you know that secrecy is common. So just maybe take a moment and just acknowledge, for whatever reason you're here, whatever's going through your mind. And again, research shows that individuals with BFRBs often delay seeking help because of shame, embarrassment, feeling misunderstood, or maybe feeling judged. So perhaps you're feeling a couple of different things right now in this very moment. Maybe you're feeling relieved or surprised or emotional, skeptical, or even hopeful. And perhaps even these emotions that you're feeling right now might shift or change during the presentation, based on what we're going to be sharing. And I just want to acknowledge that all of these reactions and feelings are completely normal. Many people live with these behaviors for years and sometimes even decades before even discovering it has a name or an explanation for what they're experiencing. Okay. So take note, maybe what you're feeling right now, and then we can check in throughout the session just to see if there was or is a bit of a shift. Okay, so what is a BFRB? BFRB is a body-focused repetitive behavior. So it's quite a long word. So BFRBs are repeated body-directed behaviors that become hard to stop and may cause damage. So we'll learn a little bit more about that later. So BFRBs are self-grooming behaviors that over time, because of what they do for us, it can become repetitive and incredibly difficult to manage. And they typically, they typically serve as reducing tension, soothing sensory discomfort, perhaps maybe even improving focus or relieving boredom. And maybe some of these come at a bit of a shock. We often hear that BFRBs or skin picking and hair pulling or biting is a result of stress or trauma. Those are the two explanations. But that certainly isn't the case for everybody. I'll repeat that. It can be to reduce tension, soothing sensory discomfort, improve focus, relieve boredom, or even as a result of trying to get our nervous system to calm down because we're overexcited. So maybe we haven't thought about that before. So behavior does initially work. So it can relieve tension. It can reduce excitement. So it can initially work. However, this is why the brain keeps repeating it, because it is effective. And when we go into a little bit later into the presentation, we'll understand the causes, and we'll go into a little bit more detail as to what I'm describing right now. So BFRBs, what are they? So we get different types of BFRBs, or body-focused repetitive behaviors. We get trichotillomania, which is hair pulling. We get excoriation disorder, which also goes by the name of dermatillomania or skin picking disorder. We get cheek biting or lip chewing, nose picking, skin scratching, or even you might not be actually taking a piece of hair and pulling it out. You might be rubbing your eyebrows to the extent that there is hair loss, or you might be twirling your hair. And there's also nail biting as well. So these behaviors can become really difficult to stop, even when someone wants to. Now, this is where I like to get you involved, and this is where technology comes into play. So I hope I get it right. I'd really like to know from you right here, which body-focused repetitive behavior do you most relate to? So I'm going to initiate a poll. So let me know. It's a multiple choice. You can choose multiple options because sometimes you don't just have one, you might have many. So do you identify with hair pulling, maybe skin picking, nail biting, cheek or lip biting, or you don't actually experience any one of these? You're here to support somebody else and you're just here to learn, or you're experiencing many. So I'm watching the numbers, they're rising. So I'm going to give everyone just a little bit more time to put in their feedback. Okay. I'm going to end the poll. So you've got a couple seconds left just to punch in your entry. And I'm going to share the results with you. Okay, so what do you think about this? So hair pulling is the majority. So 58% of you that are here right now can identify or you're experiencing hair pulling. Whereas 39% of you experience skin picking or excoriation disorder. 21% experience nail biting, 18% cheek or lip biting, and almost 10% of you are here because you actually don't experience one, but you're here to learn. I find that very interesting, and I love that there are individuals here to learn more, to potentially support their loved ones, or we even have healthcare providers here learning about BFRBs to help them to extend their education and help their clients. So thank you for sharing that. So before we even talk further about BFRBs and what they are, I want to start with something many people tell me. So they say things like, why can't I just stop? Or what's wrong with me? If you've ever had thoughts like that, I want you to know that the majority of people that are here right now may have thought that at least once or many times during the day. So you are not alone. Many people living with skin picking, hair pulling, nail biting, any kind of BFRB have asked themselves those exact questions. And this is the reality, is that these behaviors are much more common than most people realize. And these are real psychological reasons why they happen. So again, I just want to reinforce that message that you are not alone. And the fact that you're here gaining information is incredibly powerful and says so much about your motivation and dedication to getting support. So I wonder, sitting here, if you can relate. So do any of these sound familiar? Again, whether you're experiencing this yourself, these are your thoughts, or you've heard someone else, a loved one, share this with you. So you've felt a bump or a scab, and you not want to, you need to remove it. You will do anything at any cost to remove that bump or scab. Maybe you've noticed a hair that just feels wrong or just weird, and you need to remove it. Perhaps you've experienced scanning the skin, whether it's your face, your arms, shoulders, back, your legs, anywhere for just some irregularities. Or you're touching an area and then becoming stuck in a picking episode. Can anyone relate to this? So there's no poll for this one, but maybe you can just give a thumbs up or a heart, just to share if you can relate to any of these. And sometimes maybe you've experienced this without even knowing that you're doing this, or knowing that what you're doing even has a name for it. And perhaps, again, right now, it's the very first time that you've actually realized, oh my gosh, actually, this is me. I do this too. So in this conversation, we are going to be focusing on skin picking and hair pulling. So as I mentioned, there are many different BFRBs, but I don't want you to feel excluded if you don't belong to any of these. We did, I think that the poll said there was around, um, it was around 20 odd percent, maybe, that there was nail biting. So I don't want you to feel excluded. A lot of the symptoms, causes, feelings, emotions, triggers are very much the same between all of the BFRBs. So whatever we're sharing right now, you can definitely take something from that, and you might be able to relate to it. So the reason why we're choosing these particular ones is that they are the most commonly studied BFRBs, and there obviously is a lot more information and research provided for these. But again, many of the patterns we discuss will apply to the other BFRBs as well. All right, so another poll. I'm curious to hear from you. How long, now that we've spoken a little bit about BFRBs and you've identified you're a hair puller, skin picker, nail biter, any one of those BFRBs. Now thinking back, how long have you been experiencing your BFRB? And I'm going to launch the poll. I'm really curious to hear from you. So perhaps you've just discovered this. It's less than 1 year, or it's between 1 and 5 years, maybe 5 to 10 years, 10 years plus, or it's been so long, you've just been experiencing this since childhood. And the numbers are going. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your own experience. I'll give it a little bit more time. Okay. Last 2 seconds, and we're ending the poll. Let me share the results. So really interesting. 3% say it's been less than 1 year. So perhaps you've just recently identified this. You've recently started these behaviors. 18%, so it's just under 20%, say it's been 1 to 5 years. 15% say it's between 5 and 10 years. And second highest is 21%, so it's been more than 10 years. And to top it, 42% say it's been since childhood. So many of you have been experiencing this for a very long time. So skin picking, okay? Skin picking and hair pulling can look like, so we're going to focus on skin picking right now. So as I mentioned, it's perhaps scanning the skin for bumps, scabs, or irregularities. It's touching the skin repeatedly to check the texture. We can pick at the skin using our fingers, our nails, even tweezers or any other tools that we can find, because we're just not getting it right, or we're not getting that imperfection or that impurity out. So sometimes individuals can use various different types of tools. It can perhaps start with just fixing that one spot, just that one, and then continuing much longer than intended. And what I mean by that is, okay, I'm going to just pick this one spot or that one little scab, and before you know it, you've spent hours in the bathroom picking at your skin, or sometimes even, you look down and your hands are covered in blood because it's been so long that you've been picking at your skin. And again, picking can be as a result of you're stressed, tired, or bored, or as I said earlier, elated, excited, joyful. We talk with a lot of people, and they are even surprised to even acknowledge or have that self-awareness, like, wow, I'm not even picking when I'm stressed, it's actually picking when I'm happy. So that's quite a revelation for some people. So is picking specific to one place, or is it perhaps everywhere? So the answer to that question is yes, it can be anywhere where there is skin. So most common areas are the face, the shoulders, chest, and arms and legs. But it can also be the scalp, lips, your back, your stomach, your fingernails or cuticles, and even your toenails. So, and sometimes you can even focus on one particular area. So you don't pick anywhere else in your body, but it's only your face. Or it can be the opposite. You only pick your arms, but your face, you don't touch your face. It really depends on the individual. Or sometimes it doesn't matter. If there's an imperfection on my face, I'm going to pick it. If there's an imperfection or a scab on my leg, I'm going to pick it. So sometimes we don't even discriminate the area. So it really depends on you as an individual. What can really be interesting for you is when you use a tool like a self-monitoring tool, you get to then notice your own patterns and which areas you like to focus most. And you just get to see how it either is the same or it does change with time. Hair pulling, oh, I apologize, it's the same slide. So hair pulling, as we described, it can also be scanning your head of hair, so it's the hair on top of your head, for any difference in texture or even color. So some people might notice a gray hair, and that's got to go. So again, it's looking for an imperfection or an irregularity. So it can be the texture or the coarseness of the hair that's slightly different, that you want that you need to remove, or it can be a split end. I mentioned as well that it can be just simply rubbing an eyebrow, or rubbing a beard, or twirling a hair. So sometimes with hair pulling, we often only focus on the actual pulling of or the removal of a hair, and the intention of that. And sometimes that's not always the case. There are individuals who twirl their hair without the intention of pulling it out, but due to twirling it, it can get stuck in your fingers, and as a result of that, it can unintentionally pull out hair. So it can be a number of those. We can also use tools to pull out hair. So it's not just using our fingertips, it's also using tweezers or any other type of tool. Some individuals might not even remove the hair, but they have a repetitive behavior of cutting their hair. So it can definitely come across in many different ways. And just as picking, pulling can also be a result of feeling stressed, tired, overwhelmed, bored, or overstimulated. So I've really given some answers away, but where can we pull? So there definitely are some myths or misconceptions that the most frequent place is on the head of their hair, and it's only women. And I specifically put a picture here of a gentleman on the screen just to demystify that. So yes, whilst the most common place to pull hair is the head of your hair, but it's not the only place. A really common place is your eyelashes and your eyebrows. And when it comes to men, the beard is a very common place as well. It can affect your arms, your pubic area, your stomach, even your legs, anywhere where you have hair on your body. But certainly the most common places are the hair on your head, your eyelashes, eyebrows, and your beard. But again, as with picking, the different locations or the focus areas can shift over time. So some people rotate areas to perhaps let a specific spot heal. Others may pull from a single area for years. Some may only pull from a very localized or specific area on their head. So they might always just have a bald spot just underneath their ear, but everywhere else is still intact and okay. Because this results in visible hair loss, we're talking about trichotillomania, but then also for skin picking, it's visible lesions or scratches or scabs that we've created. It can cause extreme self-consciousness, and we can go to great lengths to conceal these areas and the condition. So talking about that, research on BFRBs consistently finds that there are high levels of concealment and embarrassment, which can delay in seeking help. And that's incredibly tragic and really sad, because we want to reinforce that, BFRBs, body focused repetitive behaviors like hair pulling, skin picking, and biting are highly treatable. And unfortunately, many people will try to conceal or camouflage the behaviors by either hiding wounds, if it's on your face, or even your neck, your chest, or your shoulders with makeup. If there's significant hair loss, maybe you're wearing hats or wigs or scarves to cover that. Perhaps you're missing some hair on your eyebrows. You've drawn the eyebrows, or you've gone for microblading, or you're wearing false eyelashes. Sometimes you avoid bright light, or even mirrors. Some individuals, even in the heat of summer, are wearing long sleeves to cover the scars on their arms. Or who won't go into a bathing suit because they don't want to expose the scabs and the scars on their legs. So they really go to great lengths to conceal and camouflage this. And this can have, yes, out of desperation, I can imagine, but this can cause even further delays and distress because again, you are living in secrecy and you're not able to enjoy your life. And as I said, often research shows that because of the concealment and the embarrassment that this can cause, it can delay help-seeking behaviors like getting treatment, or even just attending a session like this, or talking to a loved one. So I'd really like to hear from you. So again, when do your picking or pulling episodes most often happen? So what do I mean by that? So let me run the poll. Notch. So when does your picking or pulling episodes most happen? Is it because you're feeling stressed or anxious? So we spoke about the different triggers or emotions. It's because I'm bored or understimulated. Maybe it's while I'm concentrating. So I'm at work or I'm studying, or maybe I'm just reading. When I just notice a imperfection or irregularity, like a bump, a scab, or a hair that just feels different or wrong. Or I'm not always aware when it starts. So I'm just giving you some time just to lock in your answers. They're still coming through. Okay, let's end. 1 or 2 seconds left. I can still see 1 or 2 coming through. Is everybody ready? Okay, let's end the poll. So let's share them with everybody. And if you want, you can share an emoji to react to these results. So are you surprised by this? Can you relate? So you can send a heart, a thumbs up because you expected this. So let me know what you think. So 75% of you say when you feel stressed or anxious. 57% say when you're bored or understimulated. 61% of you said while concentrating, so you're either studying, working, reading, or even watching TV. 64% say that when you notice a bump, a scab, or just a hair that feels wrong, or you just feel a skin on your fingernail that you just need to get rid of. And 29% say I'm not always aware when it starts. And I'm really disappointed that I didn't add additional one with regards to be feeling overstimulated or excited or joyful. It would have been interesting to see if anyone could relate to that. So 75%, so the majority of you are feeling stressed and anxious. So it definitely is no wonder that in the media, in society, we often hear that the cause of a BFRB is stress or anxiety. And it's no surprise because it is incredibly common. But just coming underneath that is 64% with just noticing an imperfection, 61 with concentrating, and just short of that is feeling bored or understimulated. So, who does it affect? I think this is quite an important question. And especially looking back at the poll that we did earlier, when did you start experiencing this? It is no surprise that it often does begin, often, not always, often does begin in childhood or adolescence. So between the ages of 10 and 13. So if anyone can identify that or if it resonates, but it's also okay if you don't fit in between the ages of 10 and 13. Onset can happen even earlier than that. As young as being in the toddler ages, so 3 years old even, or even later in adulthood. We've had some individuals reach out to us for the very first time, just acknowledging that this has just recently impacted them, and they're in their 40s, 50s, or 60s. So BFRBs can affect anyone of all ages, all genders, as I shared in the previous slides, specifically with the trichotillomania slide of the different areas. However, more females than males do seek treatment. So maybe why is that so? And it's not because that more women experience these conditions or BFRBs. Often it is simply because women, we get this information from somewhere. So therefore, someone would have had to share that they're experiencing this behavior. So that's where we get the research and the stats from. And when I say we, I mean the healthcare profession, I mean general. And many women often are more inclined to seek treatment than men, or just to report it. And that's where we get the information from. So again, perhaps society has shared that men should just toughen it up and focus on making money and taking care of their family and put themselves last, and whereas women it's more acceptable. And I definitely want to expel and debunk that immediately. So many it's almost 50-50 that men and women both experience BFRBs. It just is seeing that there are more women that are seeking treatment, and it's most likely due to societal norms. But just as a last reinforcement, BFRBs affect anyone, regardless of race, gender, or age. So I wonder, if before coming to this session, if you've never heard about this or you've just recently learned about it, perhaps there wasn't a lot of information that was shared, and or again, because of secrecy, you might think that you're the only one. But I want to reassure you that BFRBs are much more common than most people actually realize. So if you're looking at this, it says between 2 and 4% of the population. That sounds really small. Like 4%, that's nothing. But when you put that into perspective, so in a city of 1 million people, that would mean roughly 10,000 people living with hair pulling and more than 30,000 or 30,000 living with skin picking. So if you were in a class, so we can also put that into perspective that it affects 1 in 20 people. So if you're in a classroom of 30 people or 40 people, there's at least 2 of you that are experiencing a BFRB. Or if you're in the workplace and there are 100 of you, and there's going to be more than 1 of you. You're not alone. So this message is really important. Your experience is not rare, strange, or uniquely flawed. Many, many people experience what you are feeling right in this moment. And it might seem rare because many people often hide their symptoms due to shame, or misunderstanding. And by being here, by having this webinar, by shining a light on these conditions, we can reduce that isolation and build a much more informed and compassionate society. So again, it kind of helps individuals feel less alone and more inclined to seek treatment. So just quickly, I want to make sure we get to all of your questions. Signs and symptoms. So what does it look like? So I think for many people, we might know this already. So it's hair loss, skin lesions, it's difficulty resisting the urges. And because of this can cause a lot of emotional distress. So I'm just going to run through some of these slides. This one here, so BFRBs, hair pulling or skin picking or any other BFRB, there are generally 2 types of BFRBs. We get our focused, which is intentional, and our automatic, which is unconscious. So focused is intentional, and it basically happens in response to emotions like stress, frustration, boredom, or even anxiety, or any other emotions that we've shared earlier. And the person might be aware of the urge and picks or pulls deliberately. So this is often a way to feel relief or control or even comfort. So what this might look like is an individual might go to the bathroom, pick up a tool, and pull out a hair or pick at their skin. So there's intent. Whereas automatic picking or pulling, on the other hand, happens with little to no awareness. So maybe you've heard of people talk about a trance-like state. So people often are picking or pulling or biting while they're watching TV, or they're reading, or they're scrolling on their phone, or even whilst they're falling asleep. And they only notice what they've been doing after the event. And this is often described as the trance-like state. So it's almost like being zoned out or like lost in thought. And this can affect up to 88% of individuals. Then you get a combination of both. So it's the one that's in between the 2 different circles. And you might experience both. Or it might start as focused, and with time in that one particular episode, it leads to automatic, or the other way around. Or sometimes it's just purely focused, and in another event, it's purely automatic. So you can have a combination or move from one or the other. Most of the time, some individuals are either focused or automatic. But this It obviously does have an impact. It can really help you knowing which one you are, because this can really help you in figuring out the specific tools that you need in how you can manage it. So just quickly, the DSM. So what that is the Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which is used by mental health professionals to treat and diagnose mental health disorders. So many people want to know, what is a BFRB or skin picking or hair pulling? Is it OCD? Is it an addiction? Is it self-harming? Like where does it fit in? So trichotillomania and or BFRBs is considered a mental health condition, and that's really, really important. I think just acknowledging that it is a mental health condition helps to create more seriousness. It helps to validate the experience, and we'll share a little bit more about that when we go to the myths. So so hair pulling, skin picking, biting falls under body focused repetitive behaviors, your BFRBs, in the Diagnostic Statistical Manual. And it falls under the broader category of obsessive, compulsive, and related disorders. So in short, it's OCD and related disorders. So basically, that just means that hair pulling and skin picking is grouped alongside, not in or the same, alongside conditions like OCD. Not because they are the same, but it's because they share some overlapping features or similarities, like the urges and compulsions and the difficulty in resisting them. So unlike OCD compulsions, BFRBs are often driven by a sensory discomfort or internal urges rather than intrusive fears and anxiety. So in order to be diagnosed with skin picking and hair pulling, there's a certain type of criteria that your mental health practitioner will need to check to be diagnosed with hair pulling or skin picking. However, I don't want to go into too much of that detail right now, just simply because of time. But you do not need a diagnosis in order to receive treatment. And you certainly do not need that to be part of the skin pick or the trick stop program. You just need to be able to identify with these tendencies. So who does it impact? So it doesn't just impact the individual, it impacts the whole system. So BFRBs affects your appearance. It can take up time. It can cause physical pain, maybe not in the moment, but afterwards. It can impact your quality of life. We did talk about how the concealment and different ways that people avoid certain things because of it. And it can really cause an immense amount of emotional distress. And I've bolded shame and secrecy intently because a lot of people experience this. And shame and secrecy sort of go hand in hand. The more shame you have, the more secret you become. The more secret you become, the more shame you experience. So it's quite a bit of a cycle. So I'm just going to go, I'm just looking to see my notes, what I want to share quickly, because I know that we're running out of time and I want to get to your questions. Yeah, and again, it can impact your relationships. So you might want to reflect right now. Who in my life does this not just, it doesn't just impact me, but it impacts other people in my life as well. Is it my partner? Is it my child? Is it my parents? So you can think about that as well. And as I mentioned, shame and stigma. So because it's often hidden, it leads to isolation, which causes delay in talking about it and seeking help. So quickly, let's go through some myths. So here we go. Has anyone heard the phrase "just stop"? Quick thumbs up. Who's heard the word "just stop"? So many individuals have heard this from loved ones, from family, from strangers. Like, what's the big deal? Like, just stop, right? So just stop really suggests that this is an issue of willpower or discipline, and this is simply not true. We've explained that this is a mental health disorder, and it's incredibly complex. And it initially served as a way to self-regulate your emotions or manage overwhelming sensations. And it's certainly not a choice. And if it was, we wouldn't be having this conversation. There wouldn't be a body-focused repetitive criteria, or it wouldn't be a mental health disorder. We would simply just stop. So comments like this can be incredibly invalidating and harmful and distressing. What else have we heard? It's just a bad habit, right? So no, we've just explained it's a mental health disorder. So it might look, the appearance might look like it's a habit, but it is a mental health condition with both behavioral and emotional components. And as we shared, it is part of the DSM in the category of obsessive, compulsive, and related disorders for a specific reason, not because it's just a habit. So this recognition is really important. It tells us that help is available. It's not that serious. How many of you have heard that? It's not such a big deal. But for many, it can be. It can cause a lot of distress and harm. So it can severely impact your mental and your physical health. We explained hair loss, lesions, scars, scabs. For some, it can even go to the extreme or the intensity of experiencing sepsis because your open wounds have gotten infected. So it's most definitely a serious condition that should not be minimized. I'm just going to skip a few. So we've heard it's just a phase. You can have a look at this in the recording. Picking, pulling, biting, etc., any BFRBs is the same as self-harm. This comes up so many times. So self-harm and BFRBs are not the same. So BFRBs are motivated by tension, relief, sensory satisfaction, and automatic behaviors, habits. Whereas self-harm typically involves intentional emotional pain regulation through injury, often linked with suicidal distress or self-punishment, where BFRBs are motivated by tension relief, sensory satisfaction, and automatic habits. Causes and triggers, you're going to have access to all of this. So we're going to run through these. So what causes BFRBs? What causes skin picking, hair pulling, or biting? So there is no single cause, but there is a mixture of many different things, biological, emotional, or behavioral factors. And it's important to note that it's not a personal failure. So when we look at biological factors, genetics can increase your risk. So if you have someone in your family who has a BFRB, the likelihood of you having one is a lot higher, but it doesn't mean that you automatically are going to experience this. And it's really important, especially for individuals who have children. I have a BFRB, and because of that, my children are definitely going to have this as well. And that's certainly not the case. Emotional triggers. So we explained it can be as a result of stress, anxiety, boredom, overstimulation, and picking and pulling can provide relief or even focus. So initially it can help with emotional regulation, but then causes problems later. So we said that the BFRBs often begin as a way to cope, and they may temporarily help someone relieve tension or stress, smooth or remove a sensation that just does not feel right, or can help improve focus or concentration, or soothe uncomfortable emotions. And when I feel the sensation or the stress, that behavior helps, and that reinforces that cycle. So the urge, oh, sorry, where are we now? So another really important cause is it's human to self-soothe. So what this basically just means is because we are human, many animals groom or self-soothe. They groom each other, or they pluck, or they scratch at each other themselves when they are experiencing a lot of stress or overwhelm. And trichotillomania and skin picking is certainly a part of a larger human response that we can see in other different animals as well. So the fact that you're human, you're inclined to self-soothe. And unfortunately, with repetition and learned behavior, that initial tool has caused a lot of distress and harm. So the urge cycle. So understanding what this looks like. So let's get to this slide quickly. So there's something that triggers the urge. So it's an emotion, a sensation, or even a situation. This then causes the urge that builds. So tension, the itch, that not right feeling, which then causes the behavior to happen. So sometimes, like we said, intentionally, or sometimes it's on autopilot, so it's automatic. This then gives us some short-term relief or satisfaction, which makes it, for many people enjoyable. This is why we do it. However, this has a long-term cost, which is either skin damage, hair loss, the shame, frustration, or just emotional distress. And the stress then that now you're experiencing at the end of this increases your, we go back to number one, and that's what that cycle looks like. So it just constantly reinforces. So part of what we're going to speak about now, what helps is learning to pause or intercept that cycle. So I'd really love to hear from you. We just don't have the time right now. What have you, maybe just think about this for yourself. What have you tried to help with your picking, pulling, or biting? So quickly, as we shared, that there is treatment available. There is hope, and it is highly treatable. And we've looked at evidence-based techniques, meaning we've done a lot of homework, and we've looked at research, and we've identified those particular therapies that have been proven, important emphasis, proven to be effective in treating these disorders. And again, treatment can be personalized, and it's really important to remember as well that progress or treatment is never a straight line. It's often non-linear. So what does it look like? What does treatment look like? So there's habit reversal treatment, or HRT. So this helps with awareness of triggers, competing responses, and environmental strategies. So this is very high level at the moment. We have a lot of webinars and blogs that go into detail. And for the sake of time, I wish I could go into more detail about this, but we'll have another webinar explaining the different types of therapies. We have ACT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, and ACT, which is acceptance and commitment therapy. And this helps us to accept the urges and focus on our values and address the different types of thought patterns that we have. And then lastly, we also have mindfulness-based approaches. So this helps to bring self-awareness and also reintroduce self-kindness and compassion. We learn grounding and sensory tools like progressive muscle relaxation, body scanning, breathing techniques to help us regulate those emotions. So just as a reminder about what progress can look like. So progress can often look like just noticing urges earlier instead of later. It's having shorter picking or pulling episodes, maybe fewer wounds or less hair loss. It doesn't always have to mean that I'm never going to do this again. We can see it in many different ways. Maybe you're recovering more quickly after a relapse or a slip. Maybe you're feeling a little bit less shame about the behavior. Maybe you're understanding your triggers a bit better, or you're learning new coping tools to help you. So it's really important to remember that the small changes do matter. And if you do experience a relapse or a slip, it's important to note that you're not starting from square one or from zero. You're starting from a place of knowledge and empowerment, and what you've learned doesn't just disappear or go away. So I hope this really helps, that when you are considering treatment, or if you're in treatment right now and you're feeling frustrated with yourself, and maybe you're thinking, what's wrong with me? I'm still picking, I'm still pulling, I'm still biting. Maybe just take a moment and just reflect on some of these. And it might remind you that, in fact, oh, okay, I actually am progressing. I am moving forward. As I promised, we can't talk about this and not talk about resources or next steps. So I really want to share that TrickStop and Skin Pick, the two programs to treat skin picking and hair pulling and biting, offer many different resources. So we do have an online treatment program that it does come with a cost, but does include the evidence-based therapies we did speak about. And a whole bunch of tools and support groups and expert therapist support. But we also have free resources like these webinars right now. We have them on a monthly basis. We have blogs that we publish on a monthly basis. We have a peer community page that is on our website and app. We have self-assessment tools. So if you're not sure, am I experiencing trichotillomania? I'm not sure if my diagnosis is accurate for skin picking, or you're just curious about the level of severity of your symptoms, you can complete our self-assessment tool, which is free. And again, we're on all social media platforms, and this just helps share more information and awareness that you can for yourself, but you can also share to your loved ones. If we really, I hope you've seen that throughout the session. I really want to hear from you. I love to hear your questions. I love to hear your stories. Please reach out to us at support@trickstop.com or support@skinpick.com, and you can email us anything. We really want to hear from you. We are at the end of the session. However, if you are able to stay, I hope you can, and we can answer some questions. I'm just trying to find where we are. Let's see, are there any questions in the chat box? So I do see a hand that's raised. And due to the nature of the session, we don't allow individuals to talk due to confidentiality, all that kind of stuff. But if you do have a question, please put it into the chat box. Okay, so there's a question. Will you ever offer a seminar later in the afternoon? I'm here on behalf of my daughter, who is 11 and is in school. We've been dealing with eyelash pulling for about 6 months. Would love for her to listen in next time. Yes, we do. So because we are an online organization, we help individuals worldwide. It's wonderful. Which means that we have to cater for various different time zones. So we do keep that in mind. So we do have webinars or sessions at different times of the day. Sometimes it will be in the early evening. And also because of that, we record everything. So if your daughter can then watch the recording at a later stage, either on our YouTube channel or on our website. But if you did register for this event, we will send it to you via your email. And it will be available within a day or two. Is it common to have multiple triggers at the same time? I notice that it's when I'm tired, trying to relax, and or trying to focus. Absolutely. So I think, and I hope that through this session, we really did a bit of a high level. We didn't get a chance to really go into a lot of the deeper information. But perhaps you've seen it's quite a complex condition. It's not just cut and dry or black and white. It's very complex. So absolutely, you can experience many different types of triggers, not just one, and all at the same time. I'm trying to think of an example right now. Yeah, I mean, it's just we're human beings. It's possible that we can experience two opposite emotions at the same time. So certainly. Okay, I've answered that question. I started hair pulling when I was probably 6 or 7 years old and stopped in my 20s when I shifted to picking at skin. Is this common? I still pick at skin on my thumbs and am seeking treatment to stop. Now, 30 plus years later, this is a great question. And again, I'm going to reinforce that this condition is really complex and it's quite specific and unique to the individual. So some people will experience hair pulling just that for their entire life, or they will experience skin picking that evolves into hair pulling, or vice versa. It can change. Some people just stop pulling. There is no explanation. They just stop, and they never pull again. Some people pull and it's a very long period of time again with no explanation. And all of a sudden they just start pulling again, or they start picking. So it can interchange. Remember, skin picking, hair pulling, biting are not single entities. It all forms part of body focused repetitive behaviors. So basically you can, if you want to, consider it as one condition, and you can move. It's possible that you can move from one to the other. This is a really good question. We get it asked all the time. And for those who are interested, we have a Q&A session that we host on a regular basis. So every couple months, maybe every 2 to 3 months, we host a Q&A, and this is almost always in the session. Does medication help trichotillomania? So that's hair pulling. Hesitant to give my child medication. She's in therapy and has tried many different things to help soothe and keep hands busy. Squishies, finger guards, etc. So therapist has run through all of those techniques with therapists that you mentioned, and none have worked. So unfortunately, there is no medication that has been identified that is effective in treating BFRBs. So that's skin picking, hair pulling, or biting. However, I just want to share with you quickly. There is it's not a medication, but it is a supplement. And I often don't pronounce this correctly, so I'm just looking it up quickly. So N-acetylcysteine, so it's NAC. It's a supplement that you can get over the counter. It has been shown. We do have some articles on our website about what the research says about NAC. So some research has shown that it has been proven to be effective. However, in the many conversations that we have with individuals experiencing the different types of BFRBs, it's helpful for some and it's ineffective for others. So it's not a medication that is guaranteed to be effective for everybody. So I just want to put that out there. But it's a supplement, so it is safe to take. But again, because it is a kind of medication, we always recommend that you do talk to your healthcare provider just to help you figure out the dosage that is good for you and your body weight and your conditions and underlying ailments that they need to consider. Your daughter is? You didn't say how old they were, but I really would like to encourage you to give maybe therapy another try. It can definitely change and be really helpful when you try a different type of therapist. Obviously, we do promote the Skin Pick and the Trick Stop program, and why I say that is obviously this session is sponsored by them, but we have therapists who have been trained specifically in BFRB treatment. They have experience in treating these disorders, so they really do know what is effective, and what is helpful. So I'd like to try and motivate you to try maybe perhaps the program. And just for those parents that are out there, we do have a parent program. So our general program is best suited for individuals from the ages of 14 and above. If for anyone who's below the age of 14, so 13 and under, the program is not recommended for them. However, we then recommend that parents join our parent program. And what happens there is, as a parent, you learn about the disorder, you learn the different techniques and tools, and you also learn coping strategies for yourself. Because as a parent, it's really important for you to feel at ease and not overwhelmed and stressed, because you can, put that onto your child. But you can also learn effective communication skills to help your child as well. So that can also be something that you may want to consider. But therapy is the gold standard when it comes to any kind of treatment. Okay, so this is a good question. So we did share that there was a small percentage of you that were here, not because you're experiencing this, but because you're here for a loved one. So how can you get help for the person who is suffering from hair picking, hair pulling, skin picking, or biting? So I think you're doing the right thing. So being here for yourself, learning about the disorder is the first step, and an excellent way to start. The more you learn, the better you'll be able to communicate and relate to your loved one or the person that's been affected. You can build that connection and that safety. And through time, perhaps the individual might be able to open up to you because you've created the safe space and you're not being critical or judgmental. So that's the first step. Maybe the second step is to say, hey, I've registered to this event, like I've attended a couple, I find them quite helpful. Why don't you sit in with me? So it's starting off gentle. It's not, I've signed you up for this program and, it can be quite overwhelming. But, gently bring them in and ask them to maybe join you in a session. But I think what you're doing right now is an excellent step. And getting them to feel like it's okay to talk to you about it, you can then start opening up more about possibly getting them on treatment. We've already answered a similar question. There's more questions about medication. Where to get individual help in the therapy form through online platform. Okay, so we have two different programs. We have Skin Pick, we have Trick Stop. Skin Pick is for skin picking. Trick Stop is for hair pulling. And if you're biting, you can fall under anyone, but you might be best suited to go under Skin Pick. So if you go onto the website, there's a big button that says Get Started, and that's where you create an account. You can also download the app and just follow the prompts and the steps there, and it will explain everything, how it works. But if you're really not sure and you have more questions, send us an email and we'll respond. More questions about medication. What resources to look for locally for help? So what type of therapy or therapist, etc. So there's a lot, and again, it depends on your personality. Do you like to engage with online therapy and having tools? Then Skin Pick and Trick Stop will be a great platform for you. I encourage you to read the reviews. You can see what other people are saying about the program. If you're skeptical about online, again, email us and we'll explain how it works and we'll guide you. There are other organizations like BFRB Changemakers that have in-person support groups. We also, on our website, have a list of therapists who do provide either online or face-to-face counseling. But that's separate from our program. So you can also just look on our website for that. There's so many questions. I'm loving all of this, and thank you for everyone who is staying. Is it likely I will be dealing with the urges, if not actively pulling my whole life? This is a really good question. And I want to reassure you that there is hope. There is hope that with treatment, that you can live an incredibly fulfilling and beautiful life. Skin picking, hair pulling, and biting often is a chronic condition, which means that it can be long term. I apologize if there's noise in the background. It can be long term, which means that you could potentially experience this for your whole life. However, I did share that with treatment, it can be manageable and it is highly treatable. So again, what that means is that it can reduce your picking or your pulling episodes. It can help you learn to manage the urges or the triggers. You can experience long periods of not picking or pulling or biting. And again, through the program, we do try and teach you that you will, sometime in your life, it's most likely that you will experience a relapse or a slip, so that just means that you will experience a picking, pulling, or biting episode sometime in your life. However, with the tools that we give you, we hope that when that does happen, either you've built enough of a buffer that when it does happen, it's less severe as it used to be. You're able to get through it a lot quicker and smoother than you did before. Maybe during that episode you've picked significantly less or pulled significantly less than you did before treatment. And you're in a position where you are also loving yourself, and having a lot more self-kindness and compassion. So I hope that, yes, it is a chronic condition, but I hope that I've shared that there is so much hope, that it is possible to live an incredibly fulfilling life. You didn't say anything about ERP therapy. So what about this? So ERP is not normally, it isn't used for BFRBs. It is a gold standard for OCD though. So remember, we kind of distinguish that, BFRBs are not the same as OCD. So ERP is incredibly effective for OCD. But it's not the gold standard for BFRBs. That would be your habit reversal training. It would be your cognitive behavioral therapy. It would be your acceptance and commitment therapy, and mindfulness. Yes, was I going to share a code? I was, but I did forget. So for those who did miss it, here it is. You can use the promo code webinar100. So it's WEBINAR, all capital letters, 100, no spaces. And that will give you $100 off your first month. And if you didn't catch that, you can, or you forget about it, you can email me and I'll share it with you as well. How much is the program for parents? My daughter is 11, so unfortunately she won't be able to participate with the program. She does have a therapist who has been focusing on trick with her. However, we would love to have someone who specifically works with this type of BFRB. Absolutely. So I would encourage her to, I think you did ask this question about the webinars, to get it to be involved in the session, in these discussions. We have some really good conversations with individuals with lived experience who often talk about their childhood experiences. So it's really nice for especially a young person who's really confused about this, maybe feeling really alone, to get to see another person talking about something that they are familiar with. The cost of the program, our general program and our parent program, is the cost is the same. So it starts at $65 to $90 or $95 per week, and that the reason why there's that range is it it depends on your insurance availability, your location, and the level of support that you require. So if you want more information on that, you can email me as well, and I'll go into a bit more detail. But when you do create an account, there is no obligation to make a purchase. You'll go through all the different questions and prompts, and it will share with you exactly how much the program will cost. So here's our final question. What proportion of those experiencing skin picking also have eczema too? So we actually didn't really talk about this as a potential trigger. So I don't have the statistics in front of me or accessible right now, but it is very common that a skin condition like eczema or acne can cause or can be a trigger for skin picking. So I would say that it can be relatively high. But I don't have the exact stats in front of me to confirm that. But a skin condition can definitely be a trigger, especially that's why we often do see it at the onset of skin picking at adolescent ages, because that's when the hormones start and you start getting acne, and it develops from there. And there are no other questions. There were a lot of questions that were repetitive, so I tried to answer them as much as I could. Could you please repeat the name of the supplement? Yes, I can. So it's NAC or N-acetylene cysteine. So you spell it N, next word ACETYLENE, next word CYSTEINE. Okay. All right. If there's no other questions, I don't see any, but if I did miss a question, please email me, and we'll get back to you and give you an answer. Thank you so very much. I really appreciate you all being here and getting involved in our polls and asking these amazing questions. And as I said in the beginning, a quick check-in. I know that we did rush through this. There was so much content to get through. In future webinars, we'll go into a little bit more detail into the different aspects. But a quick check-in, just see how you're feeling right now, and reflect back on how you were feeling at the beginning of the session, and just notice if there was a shift or a change. Did you learn something new? Was all of this familiar and it was just reinforcing what you already knew? Did you learn something new about yourself? If you would like to share that with us, again, you can share us or send us an email and share that with us. I'd love to hear. So thank you everybody so much, and I'll see you at the next one.